Thanks for checking out my video on the Child palette, which has been a massively anticipated ColourPop collaboration with Disney's Mandalorian, which is part of the Star Wars franchise. I think everybody knows about this palette, like the character it's based on, the Child, which everyone's just coined as Baby Yoda, is so popular because of its full-on cuteness and it's so lovable and adorable, even though it's a bit gross and naughty at times, I have to say. But hey ho, I think there's already a lot of videos out there on this. I'll still share my swatches, but I'll also try and compare them to some other ColourPop eyeshadows that I have just to see if they're similar or not. I'll then share the looks that I've made and my thoughts. Just as a quick reference and info, ColourPop is a US-based brand where you buy most of the products online. I have covered a little bit more about the brand in another review video, which I'll link here and in the description box. Just to note though, they do worldwide shipping and they calculate custom taxes as well, which is all included in the checkout. Now this palette is pretty new. It's only just launched on the 29th of October in line with season 2 of The Mandalorian being released. That's like within the past 2 weeks. And since then, there has already been another 2 new collections released by ColourPop. I mean, how crazy is that? Anyway, back onto the palette. ColourPop's website did an awesome launch for this. I loved their launch theme, and I loved the artwork and packaging. I reckon they could have blown it out the park even more if they had done the artwork like the Mandalorian ending credits. Those are really nostalgic of the 80s or 90s kind of film artwork, or even that comic book type fantasy art vibe. But I'm definitely not disappointed with this design. I do like this kind of colour story with greens and neutrals. It does give me a slight Mint to Be vibe, but I'll compare that in a moment. But before that, here are the swatches. So those are the swatches. Now I'm going to show you some of the ColourPop shadows I have and try to compare them. So these comparisons are based on what I have in my collection, which I'll show here now. So that includes Mint to Be, Just My Luck, Wild Nothing, Sailor Moon, Garden Party, Aura and Out, the Elsa palette, Main Squeeze, Strawberry Shake and Orange You Glad. As an update, there's been a few delays finishing this video, so since then I've received and added the At Forest Sight palette and the Grandeur palette. I also used single eyeshadows I've collected from ColourPop. I don't have all their single eyeshadows, so I'll show you here what I do have so you can see how complete the comparison was. Anything in that peachy brown shade included Lay Low, Centerfold and Charge It. The only matte green I had to compare is Team Captain, and anything similar in the shimmer range I have included Tea Garden, Glass Ball, Wishful Thinking and Chauffeur. The Precious Cargo shade is quite unique in that it's got silver flicks in this kind of light gold satin shimmer, but there are similar shades like Sultan in Wild Nothing and Silver Millennium in Sailor Moon. Right Hand Mando appears quite silver in the pan and in the palette, which might be because of the colour story placement. So I found Seashells in the Wild Nothing palette to be very similar, it's only slightly warmer. I do have quite a few ColourPop palettes that look very similar to Just Like a Tatooine in the pan, but when swatching their differences are obvious. The closest I actually found was Wild Nothing's Vagabond, which is slightly more cooler and neutral. Since then I swatched it again with some similar shades in the new palettes. The Old Growth shade, which is in the Raw Beauty Christie collab, At Forest Sight palette, is also kind of similar, but it's still kind of pinky in comparison. Looking at my collection, the Sipping Soup shade is unique. As you can see in the closest shades I found in my palettes here, the shade's still pretty different. The obvious similarities to Babyface are in the Mint to Be and Just My Luck palettes. When swatched together, you can see the differences with Babyface on the left. Without the direct comparison, you can get a similar look with Demeth in the Meant to Be palette. I think the fourth shade looks quite different between the pan and the swatch. With close inspection like this, you can see the shade is a little different to other very similar shades in other palettes or in ColourPop's single collection. Again, without comparing so closely, they would look the same or similar. Little Frog is definitely unique in my ColourPop collection. I also checked it against this shade called Fiddlehead in the At Forest palette, which is the Raw Beauty Christie collab, but they definitely don't match, and Little Frog is a lot more olive green with a bit of sparkle. Again, there's a lot of shades that look familiar to Float Your Crib in the pan, but close comparison shows how they're different. Saying that, there is a single eyeshadow called Team Captain, which is almost exactly the same. It's just a teeny tiny darker and neutral. There's definitely a lot of dark browns across ColourPop's palettes. The closest one I found to Droid Protocol again was in Wild Nothing. That similar No Bounds shade is almost exactly the same. Droid Protocol is a tad tiny bit darker, but you can hardly tell the difference. I checked the other new palettes too, and of course they have some sort of signature dark brown shade as well, but when you compare them like this, you can see they're not exactly the same as Droid Protocol either. So here are some looks I came up with using the palette. I'll just give you the gist of how I created them. You can see the shades I used in the bottom right corner. I did start bold using quite a few of the shades, so it does have a bit of everything with an earthy green to an earthy brown and some shimmer. Here's the second look. And that's the second look. More warm with those browns and a touch of green shimmer. Here's the third look. Much more of a cool, neutral green look. This is the fourth look. Fourth look. Is the fifth look. number 6. And that's the 6th look. Here's look number 7. And that's the 7th look. This is look number 8. That's the final look. I was kind of interested in how many looks I could do with this palette, and it's not too bad. So here are my final thoughts. I do really like this palette. I love the packaging design and colour story. I think most of the eyeshadows worked well, as expected with the ColourPop formula. The one that was a little bit more difficult was Precious Cargo. It looked beautiful swatched on the fingers, but I think for applying, got to be really careful or try to build it up to get it to show. It's a shade you can't muddy up. While it does contain similar shades to other palettes and singles, even with slight differences, I did find a couple of shades like Little Frog that are unique. It does sort of have a hybrid theme between Mint to Be and Wild Nothing. It does have an extra punch of those neutral olive green hues and some interesting finishes like the Precious Cargo with those silver bits in that pale gold kind of satin texture. I am a Mandalorian fan and I'm into the whole Baby Yoda thing, and I love earthy colours, so for me this palette is definitely something I would rate for those things. If you have similar shades in your collection and this is a little bit difficult to get a hold of, I don't really think you're missing out that much. ColourPop are restocking these type of palettes now, including this one, so I reckon these are pretty available. I've already used this palette quite a bit, and I found it perfect for creating earthy, wearable looks. So I'm really happy with this palette. So let me know what your thoughts are. Did you end up getting this palette? Do you have something similar already? Or do you prefer a different colour story? Also, if you're a Mandalorian fan, I'd be really interested to know what you think about the latest episode as well. Comment below, and thanks for watching.